Hi, everyone. I'm Mikey Stiller, the COO and Director of Marketing for the Proctor Gallagher Institute, and I'm so excited to be coming to you guys today with a little bit of a live stream, a little surprise live stream with one of my coworkers and best friends, Araj Masugi. Hey, Araj, how's it going?
Hey, good, Mike. How are you?
Doing great. So today we're going to talk all about goals. As January comes to a close, we want to make sure that you are still on track with your goals. And if you are not on track with your goals, we want to help you get back on track with some strategies, tips, and tools that we're using in our lives that Bob and Sandy have taught us, that we talked about earlier this month at our Art of Goal Creation seminar. And we just want to see if there's some things that we can tell you guys today or give you guys today that could help you. So, Araj, are you ready to get started?
I'm ready, Mike.
All right, let's do it. First, if we're going to talk about goals, let's talk about step one. So what is step one?
Well, for me, step one is always knowing what your goal is, knowing what you want. And I'm sure because the people we're streaming this to are well educated in what we do, 98 out of 100 people don't know what they want. So instead of just throwing darts at the dartboard, I think the first step is just getting out a piece of paper and just starting it, taking what Bob always taught me is I'm so happy and grateful now. And then just let your imagination go and really see what comes up till you get clear on what you want. Because clarity is key in creating what you want. Without clarity, you're going to start, stop, because you're not going to have a true desire because it's not what you want. And then you won't be able to get emotionally involved in it.
That's so true. And, for 10 years now, we've been hearing Bob say, is that what you really want, or is that what you think you can get? Now, can you go a little bit deeper on that and how someone maybe gets past just settling for what they think they can get and goes for something that they really want?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And I say it's interesting because I'm always talking with my clients, with my team, with Bob, with you, about not settling. I think settling really leads to mediocrity. And a lot of people are setting goals that they know they can achieve or they think they can get to, but it's not what they truly want. The goal achieving, I think, is the big thing. Goal setting is more of an intellectual exercise, but goal achieving is a lawful process. As we know, everything happens by law, not luck. Now, when we are going to achieve the goal, that's where the big wins happen in our lives, because that's where we grow and we grow into that person. I want everyone to just sit back for a second. And I want you, Mike, I'm talking to you, but I'm really talking to everybody. Think about something you were proud of at one point in your life that you achieved. Now think about the grit it took and who you became in that process. That's where the big growth happens. And I think that's what we want to focus on in goal setting and achieving.
I think that's a big reason why Bob called our seminar this month The Art of Goal Creation. And I absolutely love that. I know a lot of you joined us for the seminar, either in person or on the live stream. It was life-changing. But the reason we call it The Art of Goal Creation is because so many times people get into goal setting and they really make it this very analytical process of, okay, what do I think I want? What would look good on paper? What do I think I can achieve? Instead of turning those reason faculties off and really letting themselves get creative and really create the life that they want. So I think that's so good, Araj. You've been mentored by Bob for 9-10 years now, and you're learning from him all the time. And so I'd love to know some of the biggest aha moments you've had from him around goal setting and as you've gone through your journey of achieving goals and then setting bigger goals.
Yeah, it's an interesting question again, because it's been such a transformation in just my awareness to what I'm picking up today from what I picked up 8 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago. The one common denominator I'll tell you, when you're working with Bob on a goal, he makes sure that you commit to it. And what I mean by that, and he'll tell me all the time, he says, I don't want you to think about anything, any reason why you can't, only why you can. And what I was talking about earlier, it brings me to a story from a few years ago. And I called him because I was stuck. And he said, well, I know why you're stuck. He said, you don't have a goal. And I agreed with him. I was at a point in my life that I had achieved a lot of things that I wanted that I never thought I could from before. Anyway, he said, I want you to get out a piece of paper, let your imagination go and write it down. Write exactly what it is you want. Well, he said, after you do it, he said, call me. So I called him and he said, I guarantee now you're going to have a much different level of energy. And now you have a desire. He said, you were just going aimlessly. Now, why I say that is because there's a lot of us throughout the year who drift, who go, and I'm one of them. I've done it in the past. I mean, I'm much better now comparatively. I'm very focused and disciplined now compared to who I used to be. But why I'm saying this is without a goal, we don't move. You know, we're more or less, existing, but we want to, you know, one of the things, Bob, and I know he shared it if you've been to any of our seminars, is you want to wake up. The first thing you think about is your goal. You know, that's when you know it's an obsession. That's what Andrew Carnegie told Napoleon Hill. He says, you want to have your goal as an obsession. It wants to always be on your mind. So one big lesson is when I'm stuck now, so if I'm talking to you or anybody listening to this, when you're stuck, I will bet you 99% of the reason is because you don't have a goal, number one, or number two, you haven't committed to that goal that you may or may not have.
Raj, that is so good. And I want to drill in on one of the things that you touched on, and that is drifting, because we're all humans. You, me, Bob, Beyonce, everyone in the world is just a human being. We all have paradigms, and we all have this insidious drifting paradigm. And so every once in a while it'll creep in and it'll get us complacent. It'll get us drifting backwards from what it was we were climbing to achieve. And some people may be experiencing that already. Here come January 30th of 2019. And they are a little less committed or a little less vigorous or a little less excited about what it was that they decided they wanted on January 1st. So I want to dig into that a little bit deeper and how to combat it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only way you can combat drifting, there's two ways. One is have a goal like we were just talking about, and two, have accountability. Because accountability is a success insurance policy. Bob drilled that in my head. That's why we want to have accountability partners. That's why we want to have mentors, okay? Because we as human beings, not everybody, because there's some that are more disciplined than others, but we always allow ourselves to give ourselves an out. But when you have an accountability partner, if you have a mentor where they're holding you to whatever X is that you want to achieve, you are going to set yourself up so much better on how to create the success you want. You know, and I don't just mean just a little bit. It's creating these habits, and the habits are going to create your life. You know, these habits are so important. You know, Bob told me a few weeks ago, and I wrote it down. He said, there's two things that hold people back. One, they don't follow direction, and two is paradigms. You know, and that was me. I say that because I told him this. I said, that was me because I had been studying his work and other people's work for 3 years before I got mentored by him. And then when I got mentored, I changed all my habits. I was a drifter. I would start and stop. It wasn't because I didn't have desires, because I didn't have the direction.
That is so good. Thank you so much. Now, one of the things we're really talking about with habits is paradigms, and paradigms are our habits and our belief system. And so I want to talk just for a second about paradigms, since we're really focusing on goals, but they're so intertwined together that I think it's important we talk about paradigms too. Now, with our paradigm, whenever we set a new goal, we might be thinking of the things that we have to give up. And I know, Araj, looking at you now, a completely different person than the person that I met 9 or 10 years ago. And there are some things in your life that you had to give up to get to where you are now, a sacrifice you had to make. And so I want to talk about that.
Well, I had to give up a lot of things. The first thing I think I had to give up was doing it my way, because obviously my way wasn't working. And I had to humble myself. And I think one of my biggest wins was being aware that I needed the help, that my way wasn't working. I had to give up my thinking patterns as well, you know, because you can, I'll say I was studying books, but I wasn't being a product of the product at that time. Even when I got mentored by Bob, I knew the mentorship wouldn't work unless I did what he told me. So I would say giving up stubbornness. Then, giving up my environment, people who were not going in the same direction as I wanted to go at, you know. And it's not that I cut people out of my life completely. Some I did, you know, that were more toxic for me. But I just talked about the things that I enjoy talking about. TV is another one that I had to minimize completely, you know, and I became an avid reader. You know, if anyone comes into my house or my office, they'll see I have over 500 books that I've read over the past 10 years, you know. So I'm just thinking of everything that I did. I reshaped my body. I gave up a lot of the foods I ate, you know, and overindulgence. So there was a lot that I had to give up that I chose to, but I didn't. Here's the thing, and you guys might be listening to this. I didn't give it all up at once. It was a natural process. And I always say this to anyone I'm working with, it's the little things compounded over time to create the big results. You know, so anybody who's listening to this, I encourage you, work on one thing at a time, not 100 things, you know, because what we focus on expands and grows, and we can't focus on 100 things.
Thanks, Raj. And you have a lot of tools and strategies that you use on a daily basis, daily rituals, we'll call them. And a lot of them you've gotten from Bob. He's helped you over the years with a goal card and with visualizing and with different things. Can you tell us a little bit about what rituals you found helped you the most and what ones you're currently using?
Sure. The goal card is one ritual I use all the time. I actually have it right in front of me. I have one in my pocket at all times. I have one on my desk, and I have one in my car. And, you know, Bob will tell you, you know, if you've ever heard him talk about the goal card, if you just feel it after reading it a number of times, it automatically gets you to think of your goal. And we become what we think about. So the more we think about it, the more we're going to become that. And that's number one. Number two, I have a lot of triggers. You know, I have a trigger right next to me. I have something that I create, and I've told everyone to create, where I have my goal written down as big, and you can see how big it is because I want to see it. And I'm not paying attention to this all day long. I'm really not paying attention to it ever. But what I'm doing is subconsciously, I'm seeing it all the time, you know, and I've done this for a number of years. Another thing is I write every goal I have, I write a year from now where my life is. And I write a script of my life, you know, and I record it. But I don't just listen to it. I mean, I spend 10, 20 minutes a day listening to it. And I could be shooting baskets. I could be going for a run. You know, it doesn't matter where I am, but I make that a part of my daily ritual. Another thing that I find that there's two things that I find that are super impactful, that are very simple to do, is number one, I use auto suggestion. So I was telling you guys about the goal card. I will read my goal card in front of the mirror for 5 minutes a day. You know, why do I do it for 5 minutes a day? It's just a number that I pick. It seems to have worked with me at every level that I've gone. So that's what I've done, you know. And why do I do it in front of a mirror? Because people have asked me that, is because when you look into your eyes are the windows to your soul. So it seeps deep into your subconscious mind, you know. And one last thing, there's actually two last things. I'm giving you different things. It's not that I'm doing all of this now, all at once, but I'm giving you different ideas that have really impacted me. One is the self-confidence formula from Think and Grow Rich. That is something I've been doing every day for the past 10 years. You know, that is non-negotiable because our self-image is crucial to achieving our goals. And obviously visualization, that's like a number one, you know, and I think if anybody hasn't listened to Sandy teach visioneering, I would highly make that a part of your daily ritual until you make it a habit.
Totally. Thank you, Raj. And if you don't have a goal card, don't know what a goal card is, you can go to proctorgallagherinstitute.com, click on tips and tools. You can actually download a goal card and read about how to use it, how to fill yours in, download and print one right there. And then Raj mentioned Sandy's visioneering lesson. It's also on our website on that tips and tools page. So head on over there and watch those if you haven't already. Thanks, Raj. That was extremely helpful. Now, we had a great event. I keep talking about the Art of Goal Creation event. It's just that I feel like our theme at Proctor Gallagher for the month of January was goals, and maybe that's part of being a personal development company and part of working with Bob and Sandy is we're constantly focusing on goals, especially in a month like January. And I was hoping you could give maybe 2 or 3 takeaways from the event. And I know that we've been to countless 3-day seminars with Bob and Sandy, but this one was really special. And I imagine you have a couple of big takeaways.
Yeah, I mean, the first one, now that we're talking about goals, I'll say the first one, Bob spent a good amount of time teaching on decision, and I spoke about it on stage when we were doing our panel. I think decision is really important because you could set a goal, but if you haven't decided that you're going to achieve it, it doesn't matter. And during that seminar, Bob was talking about you have to fuse with the goal. So you get married with the goal, you become one with it. Okay. Well, you can't become one if you didn't make the decision. Okay. And a decision is doing this no matter what. Okay. It's not giving yourself an out. So let me give you an example. Let's say somebody wants to release weight. Okay. Well, they'll know if they made a decision by the soonest start where somebody around them has a piece of cake. Are they going to indulge in that? But when they make a decision, it won't matter. They've switched to a different frequency. And whether it's, our health, whether it's our income, whether it's a relationship, that is so important, And that's why I love what Napoleon Hill says about decision making. He says, after interviewing 500 of the most successful people in the world, the one common denominator is decision making. He says the winners make decisions quickly and change them slow, if at all. See, if we look at that and just compartmentalize it to our goal. And so let's say somebody, using my example before, wanted to release weight. When they make that decision, they flip onto a different frequency. Their mind is already thinking of how they can. Going back to what I was telling you when Bob was teaching me about the one thing that on achieving any goal is you can't focus on why you can't. You only put all your energy on the thoughts of how you can. So I think that is one. I know I was a little drawn out with that, but I think it's so important. And the second one is really your image, getting that image and really emotionalizing it, what you want, really emotionalizing and internalizing it and giving it to the treasure of your mind, which is your subconscious. These two things work hand in hand because our ideas start in a want, then we have to emotionalize it through repetition. And I think if anyone goes and studies any of Bob's recordings, or if you ever get mentored by Bob, you'll see how he hammers that into you to make that a must do.
Thanks, Raj. And we're going to talk more about image and living from your goal in just a minute. We have a couple of questions coming into the chat, so I'm going to give those to you really quick. The first is, let's discuss, is sacrifice really sacrifice, or is it finally taking action upon what you desire? What do you think?
It's a good question. I don't think it's sacrifice. I think it's commitment, so I think it's taking action on your desire, but it follows the pre-qualification is they're committed to it, so I think it's actually a very good question, whoever asked that, because I was working with a client 2 days ago, and I told them, I said, do you want this bad enough? Because your why has to be stronger than your why not. And that's what whoever asked this question is talking about, right? When you take action, your why is stronger than your why not. When you think about the sacrifice, you're thinking about the present. So that's what
really quickly, I just Googled the word sacrifice, and I want to read the definition so that it can reframe what sacrifice is for everyone who's listening. Based on the dictionary, sacrifice is an act of giving up something valued for the sake of something else regarded as important or worthy. So you're giving up something that you currently see as valued for something more valuable to you. So I think we're thinking of sacrifice as giving up something that we love, but then we're forgetting that we're giving it up for the sake of something. What do you think, Raj?
Yeah. Well, I think, the way I look at it, I mean, my perspective is you have to give up your paradigm on whatever, because we have to replace the old with something new. And usually, like speaking for myself, when I'm giving up something, it means I want to create something bigger and better for myself, you know? So it's letting go and surrendering of the old, kind of like what I was telling you when you asked me what I needed to let go of was my way of doing things. So that was one of the big things. So I use this to equate to that as well.
Here's the next question for you. What is the best way to find your purpose?
You know, I'm going to give you what Bob shared with me. You know, your purpose is something you discover over time. Keep focusing on how you want to live, and your purpose will come and find you. You know, he always told me, don't worry about your purpose. It will find you, but keep focused on growing. Keep focused on really spending an hour a day of studying yourself. And he said, as you do that, your purpose will find you. A lot of people are trying to find their purpose. Well, force negates. So when you allow it in, it's going to find you very effortlessly.
Thanks, Raj. That's so good. Next question. Is a mentor necessary?
I think 100% it's necessary. If you study the most successful people in the world, I don't care who it is, okay? And I don't care what field it is. They all have mentors. I am avid on studying all different types of people, from athletes to entrepreneurs to actors, actresses. And the one common denominator that I've discovered is they all have mentors. And to piggyback that, a couple of years ago, I asked Bob, I said, have you ever met anybody to do this on their own? And he said, in 57 years, I have not. However, I think all things are possible. It would take somebody 10 years with great discipline, what I could show them how to do in 6 months to a year. And what we're talking about, there's a lot of people who create success unconsciously, you know, but if that disappears and they didn't know how to create it, they don't know how to recreate it, you know? So I think that's an important factor. And I will tell you, if you listen to any of my webinars, anything that I've been interviewed, mentorship is the thing that changed my life, you know? And how did I go from struggling and a lot of heartache to changing my life in such a quick manner? And I had to do the work for sure. However, I had to get the right mentor.
Thanks, Raj. And when you think about that too, what Bob said, what it would take someone to do 10 years without any mentorship, it would take me 6 months to 12 months to teach them. Well, are you going to be committed for 10 years, or are you going to lose steam and lose confidence? So that's something to think about too. And that brings up the next question that we received, which is, how do you stick to your commitment?
When your why, this is really simple, and I'm not trying to minimize it, but it really comes down to this. Is your why stronger than your why not? If you really want something bad enough and you want to change to grow into that, you won't let anything get in your way. You know, and I could take you through clients, I could take you my personal experience. Like when I decided, like, I'm so sick and tired of being sick and tired, I was willing to move mountains to make it happen. And I had to be creative because I was not in a great financial position, you know, but I did have one thing going for me, is I had a strong desire and I had a really optimistic attitude. You know, there was a part of me that knew I could do better. So the reason when I say stick to it, you won't have a problem sticking to it when you've accepted the idea. When you make it, you remember we were talking earlier about fusing with it. When you become one with it, you accept this idea and it will take off. I want to give you guys a story that I just said is regarding accepting an idea, because it's so important. This is a few years ago, and I was talking to Bob, and he was congratulating me on something I achieved. And I had never achieved it before. And I said, I wish I would do it every day. And you got to be careful what you say around Bob, because he picks up everything. And he said to me, he says, oh, that's interesting. Why do you wish it? Why do you wish you'd do it every day? I said, what do you mean? He said, you could do it every day. I said, well, how? He said, you just have to accept the idea. He said, you accepted the idea on some part to do it this one time. And I said, that's all? He said, that's it. He said, this isn't rocket science. And I'll never forget that, because ever since that moment, I've accepted anything I wanted, and I've accepted the idea. Now, what's happening is most people are accepting the wrong idea. They're accepting why it can't happen. They're accepting what worst case scenarios.
That is so good. I hope everyone listening rewinds and listens to that again, because that is such an important key in getting what you want. Thank you so much for sharing that, Araj. This next question is, I'm having trouble finding my desire. How do I find what I want to do with my life?
Think about what it is if it was impossible to fail. What would you like spending your time doing? You know, maybe make a list of all your hobbies. And, you know, how do you want to live? Do you want to travel? Do you want to move? You know, just write it down and keep writing and let your imagination go, and forget about why you can't. Forget about your present circumstances, okay? Your present circumstances is based on your past beliefs, decisions, and behaviors. You want to focus on what you do want. And you may say, oh, a lot of people negate what they want because they don't think they can achieve it. Forget about that. Let's just for one moment, for an hour, go write how you want your life to be, and then we can help you get to where you want. Then it's all those steps that we've been talking about on this call of getting that image of what you want ingrained into your subconscious mind.
You know, you touched on something that I think is so critical right there, and that is, I don't think most people have the most trouble figuring out what it is they want, but they have the most trouble suspending disbelief for long enough to figure out what they want. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, you know, I in the book U Squared, Price Pritchett says, if you're going to doubt anything, doubt your doubt. Okay. See, your disbelief is based on your conditioning. Now we got to ask ourselves, is our conditioning supporting us? Do I want more? See, we have desires in our heart for them to be fulfilled. And the only time they're not fulfilled is if we give up. And I have another story. Last year, I was with Bob, and my wife was starting a new business. And Bob's sitting with us eating lunch, and he said, your business, if it's not a little hard, it's only going to be a little good, you know? He said, so don't give up. He said, you will win in the end if you don't give up. And that's the key. And I never heard him tell me that. But when he told her that, I just couldn't ever forget it, because it's the truth. I look at my journey, and if I would have given up, I don't know where I'd be today.
That's so good. I'm going to answer 2 more questions. I know we have a lot of questions coming in, and so if you guys want us to do like a specific Q&A session, we would be happy to come back and do just maybe 30-45 minutes of all Q&A. So if you guys want that, go ahead and put yes, Q&A please, or something in the chat, and let us know that you'd be interested in that. We'll be happy to get it scheduled sometime in the next week or so. 2 last questions for you, Arash, are, should we keep visualizing the next step or the end result, or both?
The end result. You live from the wish fulfilled, you know? And if you want to study visualization, okay, I told you Sandy's Visioneering is excellent. You know, but you might want to get some books from Neville Goddard. You know, I think he teaches it in book form better than anyone I've studied, where he talks about the wish fulfilled. Like, see if let's say you're married, see your spouse congratulating you on already achieving whatever X is, okay? But really come from the end. Don't come from your next step. That's just being a little analytical. We want, when we're visualizing, already be done with it. You know, create a video, create a video for yourself on where you are now that you achieved this and what has transpired for you, and watch that video a couple times a day.
I love it. This last question is perfect, because we're going to circle back to self-image, and then we're going to open up the discussion that I was hoping we could come back to, which is living from the image of your goal as if it's already happened. So the question is, what advice do you have to improve one's self-image?
Number 1, watch your thinking. Okay, that's one of the things you want to do. Like, whoever asked this question, I mean, this is for everybody. I want you to think about what your goal is right now. Are you thinking as that person right now? And you don't beat yourself up. Just from a neutral position, be like, okay, no. Let's say the answer is no. Well, then you want to consciously start asking yourself, what does the person who achieved X would think about? Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, write out your self-image as the person you intend to be every day. Literally write it out. It'll probably take you 10 minutes. You know, it's a few paragraphs, but don't just write it. After you write it, read the first line, close your eyes and see yourself as that person. Read the second line, close your eyes and see yourself as that person. You want to consciously see yourself right now. You're already that person. Okay. Look at how that person dresses, how they talk. Are they worried about what other people are thinking? These are things that you can do over time that are going to create big difference in your self-image, you know, but you can't miss a day. You've got to do it every day. You want to do it every day. And if you miss a day, don't beat yourself up. Just get back up and do it again.
Yep. I love it. Thanks, Raj. Now let's talk about living as it relates to goals. Let's talk about self-image and living from the goal as if it's already happened.
Okay, so first we got to remember this. Our self-image is a direct reflection of what we draw into our life, okay? To me, self-image is the thing that I work on every day, because the one thing I do know is we can never outperform the self-image. We could change it, but we can't outperform it, okay? And that is really important that you understand that. I'm going to say it one more time because it's so important. We can never outperform our self-image. We can change it, but we can't outperform it. Now, if we're looking at our goals, whatever goal one is, okay, what I would do for my goals is I will think about myself as that person. And I have like a nightly check-in, and I'll say to myself, you know, did I act as that person today? You know, did I let my present results control me? You know, because that's not something in harmony with me achieving that goal. Or did I let my desire drive me, and did I build that picture? Was I emotionally involved in what I wanted or what I didn't want? Okay. Did I have the attitude of somebody who achieves that goal? So I have this nightly check-in that I'm constantly course correcting myself, you know, and everything is around the image, you know, and I don't have to know how I'm going to get there. That's none of my business. What I need to focus on is thinking as that person. Remember, thinking makes everything so, okay? And like if we look at, you know, I go back to that seminar, Bob said something that I heard a little differently. He said, if you look at your income, that is a reflection on how you see yourself, you know, and I've heard him say different things to that, but the way he said it really impacted me, you know, or we could take income out and put it in any area of our life, but really it's how we're seeing ourselves, because we can't identify with something we're not. And I always tell people is we don't get what we want, we get who we are. So who are we? You know, this is things that we can consciously correct.
Raj, you just asked such a great question. Who are we? And I want to talk about that too. And I want to talk about affirmations and what we're affirming to ourselves, because so often we can be our own worst critic and we can tell ourselves that we're not enough and that we're not going to get there and all of these things, beating ourselves down. And I think that daily affirmations and affirming who you are and who it is that you want to be are so important in building your self-image. One of the things that I've been doing, in addition to our daily gratitude lesson, which again, it's on our tips and tools page. If you don't know what it is, you can download it. And Sandy goes through an entire lesson, but I'm writing down my 10 gratitude items. And then right next to it, I'm writing down 10 affirmations that are who I'm affirming I am and who I want to be. And it's all in I am formats. Like, I am an amazing mom. I am an amazing leader. So just like things that are affirming the self-image that I want to have.
Yeah, I mean, you know, what we want to do now when we're doing affirmations, I like how Jim Rohn says it. He says affirmation without application is delusion, you know? And now when you're saying I am an amazing mother on that affirmation, now you want to see yourself as that, you know? If, you know, you're critical, you know, of what type of mother you are. I'm just giving an example, you know, because usually we do affirmations of whatever it is, but we got to act as that person, you know. For example, you can't say, I'm at my perfect weight, looking good and feeling great, then the rest of the day eat really poorly. You see, a lot of people will say affirmations don't work. It's not true. Affirmations work, but you have to follow it up. And we have to change the paradigm. So that affirmation you might have to say 1,000 times, but now we have to act as that person. I think that's the thing that we got to remember. We want to remind ourselves, and listen, you're going to have hiccups. And I don't expect you to be perfect. I'm not perfect. You know, Bob will tell you he's not perfect. You know, it's just about picking ourselves up and course correcting.
Thanks, Raj. Now we're towards the end of the call here, and we have not talked about our programs or what we do at Proctor Gallagher really at all, other than our 3-day seminar, which we've referenced a couple of times. But I want to bring it back because we touched on mentorship. And I know you and I both agree that Bob and Sandy are the greatest teachers and mentors in the entire world, especially when it comes to personal development and reaching your goals and really becoming the person that you want to be. And so if you want to talk to someone on our team, maybe a Raj or one of our other coaches, there's a link in the description of this webinar. Just click there, fill out the form. There's a nice video, more content that you can watch on the page. Fill out the form, and then you can talk to one of our coaches about what programs we have. But Raj, if you want to just touch on mentorship before we close out, that would be great.
You know, mentorship, like I said earlier, it changed my life. I don't know where I'd be without making that decision to get mentored by Bob, you know, in his 13-month coaching. Now, I'll tell you this, I didn't know if it was going to work. You know, I had tried a lot of stuff that hadn't worked. And but Bob and I had a mutual acquaintance, and he got me on the phone with Bob, and Bob told me, he said, if you'll do exactly what I tell you, not half, not 3/4, everything will change. And I said to him, will this really work? And he said, until you find out I'm a liar or I don't know what I'm talking about, then you can come back to me. And I never had anyone talk to me like that, number one. But I had such a belief in him, not in myself at that time. But I said to myself, I'm going to do exactly what this man tells me for 1 calendar year. And it ended up being the best decision I ever made, you know. And I know there's people sitting back there thinking, oh, will it work? You know, I've tried this, or, you know, what's the difference in you going on YouTube? There's a significant difference, you know. Bob shared with me many years ago, it took him 9 years to put this mentorship together. And I asked him why. He said, I wanted to base it off my 7 main mentors and the millions of people that I've touched. And it didn't matter if somebody was a success, if somebody was starting over, somebody who'd never created any success would have the same opportunity to really create the life of their dreams. And so my big thing is, if you want to do more, I highly, highly encourage you, take that step for yourself, because you'll be glad you did 6 months from now.
Thanks, Raj. And thanks everyone for joining us. I know we got lots of yeses in the chat. We'd be happy to come back and do a Q&A. So Raj and I will get together after this call, and we'll set a time that we can come back on and do a Q&A sometime in the next week. And if you want to learn more, talk to somebody on our team, go ahead and click the link in the description. Otherwise, we'll see you guys soon, and have a great day. Thanks, Raj.
Thanks, Mike.